And even though I got into this program and now I have to be hopping around, my commitment is and continues to be to Puerto Rico and to being able to bring opportunities to the island to reduce brain drain, and to support people on the island so that they don't feel like they had to leave because I only left because I felt like I had to. I would not have left if it was my choice, if it was my first choice, right? So building that on the island, bringing opportunities and resources to the island is super important to me.
Our very first guest is Laura Camila Rivera, a strategic marketing and communications leader. She currently works for the NFL and serves the NFL Player Care Foundation. She's also the founder and CEO of Cami Studio, president of Alpha Puerto Rico, and is also involved with organizations like Mujeres in Marketing and United Latinas. She is a National Urban Fellow and recent graduate of Georgetown University's Master of Policy Management program. So let's go ahead and get into today's episode.
My name is Laura, and I was born and raised in Puerto Rico. I jumped around a lot, moved around to a lot of different spaces within Puerto Rico, then spent some time in Florida, then back to Puerto Rico. So I was always kind of caught in this like both identities kind of space, that made it really difficult for me to feel at home anywhere. Every time I was in a Latino space, people were like, "Oh, that's Laura, she's more gringa than us," right? And whenever I was in the American spaces, they were like, "Oh, she's not one of us," right? And so I kind of learned to like engage in that space and be, instead of trying to like fit in and assimilate, just kind of be a little bit more of the standout person in the room, to bring attention to the things that I wanted to bring attention to. I've spent a lot of time growing up, building community, building my leadership skills, and I didn't really know what that was going to end up being for, until later on in life. I think the maybe hardest thing that I've ever had to go through, was being away from home and having Hurricane Maria absolutely destroy Puerto Rico. It was something that it triggered in me issues with anxiety, with depression. I didn't hear from my grandmother for 4 days, and she's the light of my life. So I spent quite some time kind of paralyzed as that was happening, and I was like, I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna go back. And my parents were like, absolutely not, right? Like that was not the best use of my time and energy and my resources. So I ended up at that time kind of being forced or thrust into action, because I had no other choice. Right. I felt like I needed to do something, but I didn't know what. And that's when I started working with other students who I figured probably felt the same way. And a bunch of us got together and started Students for Puerto Rico, which became a national like fundraising movement, that, brought over $250,000 to the island. It's definitely something I'm most proud of in my life, but it didn't come easy. I was having panic attacks in like on campus in the bathroom in between classes. The Latino Student Cultural Center at my university has seen me at my highs and at my lows. Um, but being able to move in a direction, feeling like I had movement, made all of the difference. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that I was going. Yeah, absolutely. So, I think dealing with the anxiety was new. Dealing with depression, and dealing with like the remnants of an eating disorder that I had when I was younger as well, was not new at that time, right? So I had been working towards trying to figure out how to address all of these issues. And I'm telling you, I tried everything. I was taking like vitamin D pills. I was doing the sun lamp in the winter so that I was taking cold showers and dry brushing, like trying to figure out all of these moving pieces on top of, medication and therapy, right? Because at the end of the day, I needed to get out of myself to figure out what was going on within myself. And that was really scary because in the Latino culture, there's a really huge stigma when it comes to mental health and talking about mental health and talking about therapy or engaging in something like therapy or medicine. Um, and I remember I would ask my mom, I would be like, something's not right. Like something's not right. I think I need to go talk to somebody. And in the most well-meaning way, my parents are pastors. My mom was like, "Oh, you just pray more. Just pray more." And yeah, exactly. And I'm incredibly spiritual, so I gave it a try. I was like, let me pray more. And that in itself, it wasn't holding me over. And I think sometimes we're like afraid to say that we need help, afraid to put ourselves in that position. And not only do we have to do it, you have to do it when you're not at your lowest. Because when you're at your lowest, that is when you can't get out of bed. You're not going to be able to call therapists and figure out how to talk to somebody, right? Like you need to do that and start engaging in that process before you hit your lowest point so that you have that system in place for when you hit your lowest point. I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I learned early on when it comes to dealing with mental health. Just because everything feels okay does not mean that you should not be prepared and taking care of yourself in those spaces. Yeah, I think when I was younger, it was really disheartening to feel othered. It made me very like insecure. I didn't want to, raise my hand and talk in class because I was maybe going to say something incorrect, right? Like I was gonna translate something, yeah, pronounce something incorrect, and I was going to embarrass myself. And I remember I was a Sunday school teacher at one point, and I was telling a story to a class of kids in Spanish. And I think I said pajamas. And instead of pijama. And everyone was just laughing at me. Like all these little kids were just like pointing and laughing at me. And I was like, I don't even know what I did wrong. Right. And so that feeling of anxiety carried me through a lot of my situations. I was like, you better be sure about what you're going to say if you're going to say it. And that's debilitating. That holds you back because a lot of the best ideas that we could have and the best like things that we can say, they don't have to be super polished. You just have to get it out there so that you can work with other people and collaborate and engage with other people on building that up. So finding myself with that anxiety, I was like, I need to do something about this. Like I need to figure out how to get over this and maybe even like feel more empowered by it. And that's when I decided like I'm gonna try and be more different, right? Like I'm going to actually highlight my differences in any space that I am in. Because one, it helped me get out of my head. It helped prepare me and prepare other people for what I was going to bring to the table. But also on the other side, it was something that like would help other people realize that they can share their differences too. Bicultural is not niche these days, right? Everybody has, different pieces, and a good majority of Latinos are bicultural, and they just don't, they don't know how to express that, but like are in fact bicultural. So how are we making our spaces open so that people feel most comfortable coming in and being their full selves or their full selves that make sense in that moment? And I realized that by making mistakes out loud, I gave other people permission to make mistakes. So I connected with Alpha right out of college, actually. Alpha wasn't as active in college where I was, because I felt like I was working at a change leadership consulting firm. It was an amazing organization. I learned so much about like change leadership and change management, but I felt like I wasn't connecting with people, with Latinos in that space. And so I started volunteering for Amplify Latinx, based out of Massachusetts, for their events, helping at registration, things like that. And they invited me to join some planning committee meetings, where I ran into some people from Alpha. I got to meet some people from Alpha, the professional chapter in Boston. Um, and in that time, I reached out to them. I was like, hey, so I'm interested in getting involved. And they were like, that's great. We actually don't have anybody in the marketing space. So we need help with this one event. They brought me in for that one event. And from there, they promoted me to director of marketing. And I spent 3 or 4 years on the board there. Um, that is how I got like involved originally and started talking to different people at the national level as well. And then I remember one time Damien was coming to one of our meetings, the CEO, and to announce something that he was like, this is a new thing that we're working on. And he's like, does anybody, have any thoughts? And I raised my hand. I thought this man is asking for feedback and I have opinions. And I told him, I was like, hey, I don't think that this is going to work because of this, this, and this, right? And like, okay, he was just kind of making an announcement. He wasn't really asking for feedback, but he was like, okay, wait, let's talk more about that. And I was like, great. So we set up some time on the side to chat. And he said to me at the end of that conversation, an hour of me just being like, these are all of the problems that I'm seeing with the way that we want to roll this out. And this is what I would recommend we do instead. He asked me, he's like, okay, do you want a job? And offered me a job at Nationals. And I said, I had just started a new role at the Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development under Commonwealth Corporation. And I was like, I can't right now because I'm in this director of marketing role that I'm really excited to finish out. And he was like, well, if you start a business, we'll hire you down the line. Think about that. And he inspired me to start a business. And so where I am today is a lot because of that conversation. I was able to start Cami Studios, which stands for Automation and Marketing Innovation. And I started working with nonprofits. I started working with small businesses, helping them like streamline their marketing tech stacks and build visibility for their brands and communicate and connect with minority audiences. I thought that was kind of the main space that I wanted to be in because these organizations, they weren't targeting correctly. Um, and because of Alpha, I also met Ileana, and I met Sandra. And so Ileana and Sandra are the founders of United Latinas. And based on my experience and some work that I had done with Ileana, from the marketing perspective for her own personal brand, they brought me in to support with United Latinas and invited me to join the founding board. The organization does amazing, amazing stuff. And if you can help any Latina elevate their presence, their voice, their story, that's a good day for me. So being able to connect with these women and connect with all the other women on the board and all of the other women who are a part of the organization overall, especially because elevation is such a huge part of what we do with the Latina Speakers Club. It's definitely been a really valuable part of, my week-to-week life. But both of those, opportunities and all of the other opportunities that I've been able to come across have all just been moments where I said yes instead of no. And even when I didn't know what was going to come out of it. And that has been, I think, a driving factor for me. It's not the answer always because I also had to learn later on in life how to balance and how to take care of myself and how to prioritize. And we're still working on that. That's a work in progress. But to be able to invest my time in things that inspire me been really valuable and have led me to be able to run my own business and now end up where I am, which is engaging in a fellowship program with the National Urban Fellows. And I'm getting a master's in public policy at Georgetown, which is being paid for by the fellowship. And in addition to that, there's a residency portion in which I was placed at the NFL under the Player Care Foundation. And so now I'm helping retired NFL players find, second wind careers and find opportunities for advancement and growth as well. So considering that that's primarily a Black and Brown audience, it's been really valuable to continue to push my mission of elevating Latino voices through that as well. Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I will say, to finish that off, that because you mentioned Nicole and Esperanza, I've actually met them through building out the Alpha Puerto Rico chapter. So that's something that we started in January. And even though I got into this program and now I have to be hopping around, my commitment is and continues to be to Puerto Rico and to being able to bring opportunities to the island to reduce brain drain, and to support people on the island so that they don't feel like they had to leave because I only left because I felt like I had to. I would not have left if it was my choice, if it was my first choice, right? So building that on the island, bringing opportunities and resources to the island is super important to me. And they were a great support in that process as well, helping with Alpha and helping launch Alpha Puerto Rico. But Oh, I would say like for anybody looking to connect, you can absolutely connect with me on Instagram and LinkedIn. Those are my primary socials. Laura Camila Rivera, and my handle on Instagram is Laura Camila Creates. But if you're interested in learning about my business, that's cami.studio, where we can engage a little bit more there. Or you can also look up Alpha Puerto Rico's socials at Alpha PR on Instagram and on all different platforms to see the work that we're doing here on the island and what we're building because it's going to be quite a legacy.